Hello Rebels and welcome back to my life. Alright, massive spoilers for this week's episode of Game of Thrones. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to stop the video now. You need to stop watching. I'm just talking for a second or two so you can get away from this video, okay? Okay. So, Jon Snow, what the I can hear you right now, just on the other side of that computer screen, screaming how this is it! This is the last straw! Game of Thrones has hurt you too many times and too badly, and you're done with it, you're never gonna watch it again. And I can sympathize, trust me, I absolutely feel where you're coming from, but let me throw just a few factoids your way that may mollify you a little bit, may make you feel just a tiny little bit better about what has happened. The very first piece of information, which I think is probably the most important, is that it has been reported that the actor who plays Jon Snow, Kit Harington, has already renegotiated his contract so that he will be playing that character through season 7 and at a pretty significant pay raise. Now, it's worth mentioning that Kit Harington himself in an interview vehemently denied that this was the case, but let's face it, this is Game of Thrones. They are the most spoiler-paranoid show in the history of television, so even if it were true, he'd be saying the exact same thing. So let's go on the assumption that Kit Harington is in fact going to continue playing Jon Snow, and that HBO isn't going to be hiring him to play a corpse of Jon Snow, but is actually going to be playing the character. Let's take a look at the story and see how this might come about. Now, we are beyond book territory. The books have not covered what's going to happen to Jon Snow, if anything, in the future. This is all speculation, okay? In the book A Dance with Dragons, the book literally ends with Jon Snow being stabbed. That's it, that's the end. He falls into the snow and his world goes black. So for many years, readers, myself included, thought that the next book would just start with him waking up, basically being fine, having multiple stab wounds, but being under the care of his brothers who fought back against the Night's Watchmen who betrayed him. However, the show pretty clearly did away with that option. The last shot is very clearly a dead Jon Snow, his eyes staring sightlessly up into the sky as his blood pools around him. So if he's not fine, if he's not going to wake up and just go through a long healing process, what are the other options? The second option is that he would rise as a white or an ice zombie, the way that all the wildlings did at Hardhome 2 episodes ago. I think this one's pretty unlikely. Most people agree that whites can only be raised by the White Walkers themselves, and I don't see a White Walker getting his hands on Jon Snow inside of Castle Black surrounded by the Night's Watch. Besides that, there's the whole R plus L equals J theory that I talked about a few weeks ago after episode 6. It seems pretty clear that Jon is eventually going to come into his own as a half Targaryen, half Stark, and possible heir to the Iron Throne, and it's hard to do that when you are an ice zombie. The third and final option, and the one that I favor based on what's happened in the show and the books, is that Melisandre herself raises Jon from the dead. Do you remember Beric Dondarrion, the guy in the fire cave that the Hound killed way back in season 3, the guy with the eye patch, this guy right here? You might also remember that that wasn't the first time Beric Dondarrion had died, and it wouldn't be the last either. He was resurrected 6 times by Thoros of Myr. Thoros of Myr is a servant of the Lord of Light, the Red God, the same god that Melisandre serves, and he's actually from the same land that Melisandre is from. And you might remember that when Melisandre met him in season 3 and found out that he had resurrected Beric Dondarrion 6 times, she was shocked because he shouldn't have that kind of power. But you know who should have that level of power? Melisandre herself, who just happened to arrive at Castle Black right before the Night's Watch turned Jon into a snow kebab. Melisandre has also gone on and on about how Stannis Baratheon is supposed to be Azor Ahai, a prophesied warrior who was supposed to come back and save the 7 kingdoms from the ice zombies after dying and being resurrected. It's highly doubtful that Stannis is going to be resurrected, but you know who could be? Yeah, that's right, Jon Snow. Well, then why were all of Melisandre's prophecies wrong? Why did she think Stannis was going to be Azor Ahai if it was actually going to turn out to be Jon Snow? Well, maybe the Lord of Light only showed Melisandre what she needed to see to bring Stannis Baratheon north to the Wall in order to save Jon from dying before his time, as well as placing her there at the exact right moment to resurrect Jon after he was betrayed by his brothers. Fans of Thrones, it's almost certain that we're going to see Jon Snow again, maybe not in season 6. That would be a nice twist where we think he's really dead, but then he comes back in season 7. I know that last scene was incredibly painful to watch, but pick yourself up off the ground, keep your chin up, keep your hopes up. After all, this show has done so much to deserve it. Thank you so much for watching. An extra special shout out to my supporters on Patreon who make all of my YouTube videos possible. If you want to be one of those awesome and incredibly attractive people, click the Patreon link in the description below. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye!